Thank you. Thank you very much, Francine, and good morning, everybody. We have another meeting, another great webinar for like every Thursday with these topics that we have for Business Central and Vision. So what our topic for this time, I'm gonna call you later. Our topic for this time will be security, guys. So I'm pretty sure some of you that might be DBAs, administrators, or IT responsibles will be interested in see the complexity and at least and at the same time understanding in a simple way when you want to actually work on a security to understand and to ask us to learn about this process so you can then later work on your with your own ideas talking about your specific necessities in your company and implement your own security as well. Okay, now Business Central has a difference with Navision that many of our customers already understand that as well. Well, Business Central also works in the cloud. So I need to explain both criterias or flavors when it comes to security because yes, we have the security that we call permissions basically and roles, but as well we need to understand something with if you want to as well hire Azure, if you want to work in the cloud or at least take the concept if you at some point want to actually work. Remember that either and for you technical people, I'm going to give you some insights if you are as well work on premises and then as well in the near future want to make a hybrid or you want to later go in the cloud. So I'm going to explain some concepts because security is flexible and has to cover both flavors, of course. Okay, so well, as here for us to begin, I am just having the typical Business Central interface, and I'm going to start explaining a little bit about the general necessities of security. Number one is who has got access to the actual environment. You can cover, of course, your security with Active Directory, either on premises or in the cloud. Now, as well, if you are actually working with Active Directory, we control all your users through that, just create them. And as well, we now work with an Office 365 account. So the idea here is that we are going to study a little of the different things that to avoid confusion, have everything clear and specify, for instance, what type of environment I have and what type of security I can implement. Okay, so one thing is Active Directory, another thing is SQL security, not related to the specifics I'm going to explain here, all right? So let's then begin with what we are going to check and make a differentiation. I'm going to start with something with Business Central, and then I'm going to go to something more specific when it comes to the field level security for a single transaction for a single user. Okay, let's begin then. I'm just going to open now what we call here our applications menu. Here in Business Central, we are connected to different tools like Outlook, Business Central, we have Power BI, and we have Dynamics 365 tools, administration, and all these things that you are seeing here. That's why we are explaining that, of course, we are going to need an Office 365 account. If you have it as well in Navision and your users have a license to use that product, well, of course, you're going to be able to use the products, to use the Office tools at least. Then, if you have Power BI or Jetty reports and connected to our Business Central database, well, those products have their own license. So let's begin from the general, right? Now, when it comes to Business Central, let me just open the administration tool. This is for Business Central very well. When we actually open either for premises or on the cloud, we are going to be having a administrative tool for global administrators only, where we are going to actually activate our users who have as well a Office 365 account. The idea of having this administration center is because through one single site, or we are going to set up the security for the licenses and the users to have who can access to all the applications that we purchase. So let me just explain you this. We have here all the active users in the admin center. This is the place where we are actually going to work, and in order to create our users and the licenses that we have available. Let's take a look at the one of the users. Let's take Mr. Noel. Okay, I have a chat. Let me see. Okay, and what happened here? Well, Mr. Noel have different devices. In this case, you could add specific devices in your network and mobility, and license and applications, where we are going to be able to purchase different licenses. In this case, the name of our license is Dynamics 365 Business Central. Okay. As well, we are going to have an Office 365 account. So, or license in this case for my user. And the idea of having everything in one single place, or the licenses in one single place, is because we want to grant that you have visibility of everything in a single area, right? So for me, I do not only will have my normal Business Central license. Ask for your consultants to upload any license that you need. And from now on, at least in this new version, just even though many of you have Navision, this is not applicable to Navision, but now you're going to be able to upload your licenses as well, ask the consultants to update that for you, and to rebuy as well a subscription that is on a monthly basis to actually pay specific users that you want to actually, for instance, use the license for enterprise mobility as an example. So we have subscriptions, and or you can purchase your own license. Now I'm going to actually work with all my license that I have here. Let's take an example. If you want to actually move your database to maybe more secure place that working on your own facilities, well, we have in Microsoft the Azure a database, or a cloud service. I mean, the idea behind this is that I'm explaining you, well, the characteristics of this type of components, because all of them are into our own administration scope, right? So just to mention it, and because of this is explanation about security, if you're thinking about, say, the cloud, well, we have Azure, or you could hire another like Amazon. Let's think of that, right? Specifically, if you want to do it, trust in that. At least for Azure, they have many compliance offerings. Like actually, Azure works with the FBI in the USA, the local security agency, of course. They have a criminal justice information department, or so, I believe that's the name of that, where they are actually, Azure is the only major cloud provider that actually commits to that conformance, right? So which commits with Microsoft to adhering to the same requirements that law enforcement and public safety entities must meet. So forget about hacking activities, forget about losing your own data, and etc. That's why the Azure services are from my point of view, the most secure service that you will ever have. And a few weeks ago, we had a case where one of the customers that actually never implemented security or didn't do a backup of their database was hacked. And guess what? They lost their information. We are helping them to actually upload the information, because the idea here of using a cloud service is that it's going to help you even more than working on premises. It's going to be cheaper at the end, because you're going to save a lot of expenses when it comes to IT, well, the infrastructure, let's call it that way, and the architecture that you require and the maintenance you need. And you can be sure then some of the questions that I have towards working in the clouds, if Azure is secure, right? Amazing as well is a very good a cloud service. Okay, so here we have all our licenses. Here we have all our products for Business Central, Office 365, and applications. So the first step is to actually upload those licenses so your users will have specific security. And actually what we do is that we can create a one single signing operation where that means that with your one single password with Active Directory that you have, they can access through all applications with the same password, right? And this is not a Windows login anymore. They can access, remember, because we are in the cloud, in any device, as long as they have now the key is working with an Office 365 account. Very well, just to have an explanation of the starter point of where we are going to be working. Now, not only this, but we have other administration centers where, just to begin with, because this is Business Central, I'm explaining here where we have all our products. But from now on and in the future, we are going to have other type of products like that are not going to be handled with only one single signing procedure. Or let's say, because with your Office 365, you can account, you can access to Business Central as well. You can access to Word, to Excel, etc. Now, what happened when we go into the? I explained before that what is coming is the power automation with applications that we consultants can design with you, with our customers, to create applications for Android to maybe consume a report or create buttons to do actions, and that will be impacting Business Central. So it's going to be very powerful. Well, that type of security will be another topic for Android devices, because those will be outside and with different functionality. We are going to develop and we are going to release new portals that you, for Navision and for Business Central, our customers, you're going to be able to deploy in the near future applications that we're going to help you to design, and portals as well. Let's say that in your company, you would like to have a ticket management or a knowledge base page from your company coming from the actual system, and you will be having here these applications and sites. Well, in the near future, we are going to go through that. Just giving you some insights in the future what we're going to be then working with. Okay, so this is basically the administration center where we're going to be managing all our applications, including Business Central access. Coming back to Business Central, here I'm going to have then access to review my profile. And if you can see here, I have my Office profile. Okay, so just to be clear and show this is what I'm explaining here, and I'm going to go back then to explain now what happened with Navision, because as well with Navision you can actually connect your credentials and your licenses. So I have some people that have actually, this is the 365 Office account that I have for my users in my company, and here I can review some analytics. I have all my people, and I can see many of the features that they have. For instance, you can see that currently we have PDF, Excel, right? And with these Office 365 products, all of them can be used within Business Central. So basically that's it. In order to understand how the new environment works. It's not isolated. The licenses will be working through an administration center to cover and to work with different type of security levels. For instance, I have a private document here. So maybe one of my users is having a sales quotation, and we need to protect the customer information, because if you see here, well, we have documents uploaded in the cloud, right? And that's going to happen if you work with like this. Now, the idea for me here is that we have different security levels, right? So just to mention it, if you have doubts about this first side of the security role, just explaining the basics, and at some point, if we are going to train some of you who are working in this flavor of the implementation, well, just to actually work and show, hey, some users will be uploading, we need to cover information from our customers, we need to allow managers to maybe only see their own team informations, and well, and since we are now working in a bigger environment, that's why we have administration side with role centers, right? So for me, the idea of explaining these basics features is because in the cloud, well, we are going to have more components, right? Another very important topic when it comes to security. Let me just open our platform center. When we work in the cloud, we are going to be managing security through a let me open this. We have an authentication error. Our platform. Let me just open, and while this is opening, in the for those of you who work in the cloud with Business Central, you either in Azure, or if you want to have another process to hire and to where you're going to be having your database with other cloud supplier, right? Now, this is just to begin. And with Business Central, only if you have Business Central, you as well, if you have Business Central on premises, you're going to have as well some security, and you don't have any more to ask for a SQL database. What we are going to be doing now is create what we call environments. And we are going to have, in this case, this is the environment where I have my Business Central database, my Business Central applications, and my Business Central let's say tenant. That's the way we call it now. So here I have an environment that I have created that has connection with all of these different things, applications, things that are actually coming with now with Business Central, different portals that we can deploy for you, flows that are mainly for workflows. And if you have the Navision idea of approval workflow, well, we call it now flows, where we are going to be sending information to teams, not only sending can you approve my purchase order through can you approve my purchase order because I'm sending an email to Outlook. We can connect now many applications. We can connect Teams, we can connect Skype. Well, Skype is not anymore that used. And we can connect other applications where we can just make our team to work more tightly, right? Everything work under a tenant. 1 second, please. Bueno. Excuse me for that. Okay, and from here, we are going to be creating new environments where necessary, and you can create a production environment like we have here, a development environment, or a Q&A environment as well. So with on-premises, we work and we need to install SQL, we need to prepare maybe 1 or 2 or 3 servers, etc. When we come to work now with Business Central, we are going to have an administration that we call a Power Platform Admin Center, where we are going to be creating everything that we need And this is going to be creating everything for us. It's going to be quite automated. So here, I'm going to have an administration center for me to actually work with my audits and logs, user and permissions. And here we are going to have business units, hierarchy, security, because now the security in the near future will be for your managers. For instance, if you implement that type of hierarchy security, well, that means that we only can see our employees' information in Business Central, in Word, in Excel, in everything. So we work in one single tenant, and we work with all that security in different applications, right? Just to mention it, and just to have some insights into what we are going to be handling. What else is important? Encryption, data encryption. You can enable it. We have data management to check who's going to be actually working and being able to read documents that you have in your company, emailing as well, and integrations. Well, email settings, email tracking, mailboxes. You are going to be able to create mailboxes, new tracking for the emails, so your users can see track of different topics. So we are going to be working with different levels of security in the near future. And now, for those of you who have Business Central, well, we need to have some other webinars specifically. Now, when we do an implementation, we are going to be working on this. But for you to know, to give a general idea, what we have here is that we have the administration center for the licenses and the users, etc. And we have one administration center that we call the Power Platform, where we are actually creating our environments. And we can just select the size of our database, the users that can access the applications. And here we are going to be working with anything that could be wrong, like audit logs, encryption, the resources. And this, if you want to actually create emailing folders, right? So there are many features that we are going to be working, that we're going to be using in the near future. Okay. So very well. What we need to do now is to cover, once we understand a little bit about this, we are going to be covering some more specific Business Central setups. Okay, so I'm going to go back to Business Central now. I'm going to review the specific user Business Central security levels, all right? And this will be now only internally in our Business Central product. That's the main topic of our webinar. So you can understand this now works exactly the same for Business Central and Navision, except remember for the Office 365 account, because at the end, this Business Central environment that could be quite different from the actual Navision is because Navision doesn't necessarily have got to work with an Office 365 account. They could work with Active Directory, or if you can even install it with an account that will be managing your local user and passwords directly without having to use Active Directory. It's not that common, but that exists. Okay, so let's then take a ride and review the security levels. For me, what I need to do first is create my users, all right? Let me just open the users tab. This is as well for Navision. This is just a brief introduction. I'm just gonna cover this in 5 minutes. We might create different users. Our users will be having, of course, different roles, but let's start then with the basics. We're gonna have access when you create your username, and you might be actually handling this in Navision with the actual users that you have in your Active Directory. Normally, that's where we work. Now, the idea here is that you are going to be filling the general information like the administration, contact email, etc., and you can enable or disable any user. Okay, so once you get that, for Business Central, and if you are actually going to connect Navision with other features that will be working in a cloud. What we need here is that we need an Office 365 authentication. For instance, if you want to send a specific email, SMTP, and in addition, you want to actually handle specific communications through email, well, we're going to need that account as well, okay? And for your users as well. Web services access, we are going to need a web service access key, right? And that's going to be to publish information, specific information from the database to be able to publish in the web. Yes, you can do so, but we need to work, just for you to remember, with a web service access key. And here, the most important thing here is coming again, your license, and here, the user groups. The user groups will basically telling me within Business Central where I'm going to be able to have access to, or this user at least. So this user can have specific access with a specific user group. In this case, he's the premium access level because I'm an administrator. Here we can handle these different companies that I might be having. This is important because some of you might have test companies. You can create a new server if you work on premises to separate different environments, or as well, you could create a test company, a simple copy of your actual production company to actually make some other like exercises for the users. And you could here then easily give access to specific companies. So maybe for trainings for the new users, well, create as a test company, and then once they are actually trained, let's give them access then as well to the actual production company. For me, the idea of actually showing this first part is actually coming to the following point, the user group security level. Here we're going to have something that will be important to review. We call it the effective permissions. The idea of creating a permission set is that we are going to be able to work within different tables to give access to read, insert, modify, or delete. This could be quite cumbersome for the first time when we do an implementation. You need to understand actually what will be your requirement, and that's why we are having this webinar to make this easy for you, because for me, when I saw this, I remember a few years ago for the first time, it was like, well, we have literally hundreds of tables and different objects and fields of, well, not thousands. Well, so in order to control security, well, how could I do it in an easy way? We have tools. That's why this webinar was created. We have tools to help you with that. And that's what we're going to be seeing. But important thing that we need to learn in first place. We have, in order to begin, just tables, okay? The table is where your records and information and your data is stored in SQL, basically. And here we are going to have the name of the table. And for me, I'm going to have the following type of permission. Once we, as I understand that we can read, insert, modify, or delete, coming actually from the actual permissions that come from a SQL, well, the idea is that we can actually provide a access by saying yes. Indirect would be saying that, well, the user can use specific, could have access, but not directly. So I'm going to explain that in a moment. Indirect access could be, for instance, if I create a specific posting setup that I have the most popular transaction is to create an invoice. Very well. So I could have indirect access to insert to the GL entry where our accounting information is. I have indirect permission to insert information in the GL. But if I try to open a general financial journal, I cannot use it. Because for that, I would need to have a insert permission as yes in order to open a financial journal and use the GL account, okay? But anyway, because if I need to post a purchase or a sales invoice, well, I would need, that's a sales or a purchase operation. We sell and we purchase our products, and at the end, Well, we just need to understand that that is going to impact our GL entry table. That's the only thing we need to understand. So we would need to give indirect access. And well, that's why it's easy to understand very well, but difficult to apply when you have dozens of tables. Very well. But at the end, what I'm showing here is that we have effective permissions assigned to one user that is called administrator. And that specific user has these different access to all these tables, right? With all these read, insert, modify, delete options. And they can do yes, no, or indirect type of a access, okay? Just to see the first part. Now, let's go because we are actually going to explain how we actually set this up in an easy way. Let me see. This will be now interesting for those of you who are implementing security. Where do we begin when we implement? We saw that we require tables, and this will be attached to a user, and that's fine. Where and how do we do that? Let's go to the second part of the webinar. Let's take some actions. I'm going to see now what we call the permission sets. Permission sets, well, like the name says, would be a set of different levels of information where we are going to group all our different accesses into one single logic criteria, such as the access for the accountants. What do you think they're going to be seeing? Well, everything related to finance. And as well, the accountants, well, we are going to show the warehouse, Ironworks, no, PayPal, warehouse insight, okay? All these people who have this permission set, and we are going to assign to all of our users one of these permission sets that contains different sets of tables, like you can see here, pages. We have different objects. I'm going to explain now the concept of a code unit and an XML and a page in a second. But we need to understand that under a permission set, we are going to actually give somebody I'm going to create a permission that is going to actually have access to different information in our ERP, and we need to understand that the permission set needs to be accommodated with specific criteria for the accountant, for the warehouse, for LS retail. The only thing that I'm not explaining today will be the POS security, not because I don't want it, is because I don't have currently a POS connected, because yes, we have a specific security for the POS. So like you understand, and you may understand, we have security all over the place. It's a great, great product. This is, let's say, just the core. Now, whenever you want to understand, okay, I understand that I need a permission set for the accountant, for the warehouse clerk, for the salespeople, etc. Okay, let's try to then understand how am I going to do it for the first time. The idea is that you're going to be creating, I'm going to do it now. Let's say that the demo group, the demo set. I'm thinking about that the demo set will be including only read capacities to maybe open documents, okay? So read sales invoices. What that will be one, that's a good idea. Okay, maybe you want to do it, but here, let's take a look at what happened here. If you take a look at all the permission sets, some of them in the column type, that's as well for Navision, would say system or user defined, okay? So the idea of the security in first place, you're going to be creating your demo sets for your critical roles, accountant, sales, purchase, and then you are going to be creating a user-defined role all the way. Because the ones that we consultants implement and we import in your implementations will be system type, and you cannot edit the system type of permission set. So what we do then is I'm going to show you how, because we can just copy a permission set. All right, let's say that later I would like to test the standard a accounts payable role. Okay, why don't we then just copy it, copy permission set, and then we'll call it new, or well, demo AP set. So what I'm gonna be doing is just copying a standard role with all the permission that it has, because remember that I cannot edit I cannot edit. Here is my new demo AP set. This is once again a user defined type of role, but this came and this is handled because remember that I cannot just come into Business Central and start changing my actual permission sets. Okay, so we just copy it. And here, once you have your own a set of permissions, well, you can do anything you require. What we are going to do here is that for the demo AP set that I have copied, I'm going to see for the first time the permissions. Okay, by clicking on my demo AP set that was recently created and clicking on permissions, the same will be for an AB, I'm going to be able to, let me maximize this, review all the information behind this specific role. Let's take a look at all this. What we have here is, first of all, the object. The object could be, now I'm going to explain this in a better way. I could have a table. You could have a code unit. The table is the SQL, is basically the SQL a table that you might be finding even with the same name, object name, if you make a query in SQL. Okay, now if you take a look at this, the idea for me is that I'm going to have a list of different tables with the name here coming as well from SQL. And well, for this, I'm going to have as well what I explained before, the read, insert, modify, and delete and execute type. Very well. Now, it will be interesting for me to clarify that we do not only have table data, we also have reports. We have this object in Navision and as well in Business Central, and as well the object called code unit. A code unit and a report are different from a table. A report, well, is a report that somebody customized for you, and a code unit will be, let's say, that the part of the engine program by our programmers to do some specific actions. Like when you click on post, well, that will be registering into different tables, or we have code units to transfer information from one database to another one. Something like what happens in the stores, right? Okay. We have as well pages. This is a page or a form in NAV is this is specific window that we open that has specific menus, buttons, in this case, this grid, right? And we have this type of objects, and yes, we can block access to buttons. We can block access not only to the table data, but to different actions and to different pages or forms, which are these windows that I'm opening here. And well, just to understand the basics, and here, what I'm gonna do is, okay, you can actually, if you don't like to work with this, you can open in Excel and start work with this in Excel as well. This is only for Business Central because you can work in Excel if this is easier for you, because while you're gonna be learning about all the permissions, what you will be learning actually is that is going to be really, you're gonna have for every user a big list, very big list of different objects, like in this case, all my tables. And this is only for an AP procedure, right? But there are more complex processes that might be there, or maybe you have managers who have access to different type of tables or information. Okay, what do we do then if we are newbies, we yet do not understand? At the end, the security role needs to understand tables and fields. But since we are in a webinar, we are learning, we need to understand that yet we are not in the point where we are actually understanding the flow of information about these tables, right? So what am I gonna do just to begin is that I need to create something for the first time. My my manager is asking me to create a permission to, I don't know, create purchase orders. That's quite common. Let's do it. Okay, so we are going now in depth into from the permission sets, and now to see what happened when we include now real permissions to do specific actions. What I'm going to do now is that I'm going to use a tool that is going to help me. I'm placing the line that is called demo set. I'm going to use a tool that is going to help me to create my first permission set. I'm going to click on permissions. And this is a recording tool that is going to actually insert all the related tables that I'm going to open Business Central. I'm going to start navigating into the different criteria, menus, pages, and records that I want to see for a user, let's say, all related to a purchase order to begin. And then what I'm going to do is record all that, and Business Central is going to help me to insert everything for me. So I'm going to click on Start, either in Navision and Business Central, open your permissions, and then click on Start. So this is going to ask, if you actually want to start recording, just click on Yes. And for now, what I'm going to do is just open a purchase invoice. Select from your menu, as well in AB, the specific document where you would like to have access, and start clicking in different functions. Let's take this example. If I need to actually create or view a purchase order, well, just view it and click on any of your documents. And this is going to open a specific record, okay? So I'm viewing it, all right? That's it. Here, I would need to come back to my window and stop literally my specific permission set. So that means that the user can see the purchase invoice, okay? But for now, just for the explanation, I want to go a little bit further. I'm not going to stop it now, and I'm going to continue to it. My permission set. I want my people to actually be able to create a new purchase order. That will be sometimes separated about, for instance, who can create and who can post or register the actual purchase order. So what I'm going to do is actually just click on this plus button, or in NAB, click on New. And what is going to happen is that it is going to create a new document for me where if you, well, I don't know if you actually have seen how to create a purchase order. For that, normally we need access to the mandatory fields where you are going to be able to see these red asterisks. Your users that you need, that if they want to create something in all NAB, at least they are going to need to be able to use these fields. So that's exactly what I'm going to do. In here, in this document, regardless of the actual process that the user is going to be asking me, right? Because sometimes they will be explaining you what they need. You need to ask them about the screens, etc. Or if you understand the process, well, the purchase invoice, just to give an explanation, requires a vendor. I'm just going to include it. As well, since I have just inserted this, this is recording the actual insertion action that I have done, and this is going to then later input that into my permission. As well, I'm going to need the vendor invoice. This is critical, so that's why it is red. And then guess what? Because we are purchasing, the red asterisks are asking me to input an item, let's call it. Let's buy any item here. Aspirins, so I'm working with a pharmaceutical or healthcare database. Now insert the actual warehouse and the quantities. Very well. We are inserting, that's what we are saying. But we also would need our people to actually be able to delete. So as well, do that, okay? The idea here is that we are going to be able to do so, and any action that you do, please place your cursor on any of the fields that will be important, because if you don't do so, ask your user, for instance, the purchase order, do you need access to change the currency or no? Because you actually, with their recording tool, you need to actually do field by field to be able to actually use the information. okay? So now the recording tool is going to be actually doing that exactly for me. Review all the important fields that you need to change, do a deletion or a addition of the fields, and so on. Just continue doing so. And with this, you don't have to worry about anything else. But let's say that, okay, my user is now going to be able to actually create a purchase order, but he doesn't necessarily has got to be able to do the last function that will be the registering process. So in order to do that, I'm actually using a posting function, but at this point, I'm not going to do so. I'm going to stop the recording process just to coming back to the actual permission creation. Let me just go back. And here, I'm just going to stop. So this is going to ask me, do you want to add the recorder permissions? And I'm going to click on yes. Oftenly, we need to explain our customers that it's very useful to actually, they make a workaround, and maybe if you want to work with your security levels, why not to document why a manager or a clerk will be doing in a simple Word document. Okay, I want access to a purchase order. I need to insertion into these specific fields, and I would like to make deletion, addition, or specific items. Let's call it in one single document. One for a purchase order, one for a sales invoice, or at least one for the role, for the manager who's going to be a purchaser, or who will be a director, or the simple purchasing clerk. Of course, all of them with different levels. What did actually this? Let's take a look. Majority of my permissions are only red permissions for all this information. So the user can see all the information that is being taken from the database 2% in the purchase order page. That's when I open the purchase order, exactly that happened. So that's a good insight about what you are going to be needing, okay? Open any document that you need, and then what is going to happen is that this, when you open the document that you need, the recording tool is going to be helping you to open the actual tables. That might be necessary to actually configure, all right? So, well, at least to see, and I know all the entire mapping of the tables require only to open a purchase order. That's why I'm explaining this in first place. So you can try it, and this is what is going to happen then. Okay, but what then happened for me at least is that a few less permissions were given because, well, I actually gave my user to change the purchase header and the purchase line. How do we know it? Because the recorder provided an insert permission or modified permission. Okay, so when you open any of the permission sets that you have, or your consultant helps you to actually configure, open this in Excel. And here, very easily, you're going to be answering two specific questions. What the actual user is going to be able to read. You saw that, well, majority of all the information related to the purchase order just while I was opening it was actually just here, okay? And Business Central inserted all the tables related to the purchase order. But what is more important for me, at least to understand, is where I have insert or modify permissions. This is more or less where I will be then most of the time working. And then the last one, of course, deleting. The deletion is also very important. Okay, but okay, let's focus on the insertion. Okay, so if you click here on we filter in Excel, just insert permission. Most of the time, the insert will be as well the modified. The insertion permission will be giving the modified permission level as well. They are quite very tight related when it comes to the database criteria or logic, okay? They are very tight. So let's filter my security processes where this user can actually just change information. I'm just filtering this to understand and to make my life more easy when it comes to the actual security levels that they have. First of all, overview the read permission access, which is here, and second, the insertion and modify permission. So this user is going to be able to change the purchase order as I did. And then these are other type of flow fields that I might be having regarding the information. Not all of the information, at least when it comes to documents, we need to focus more on header and lines for all documents, sales invoices, purchase orders, financial journals, because a document will be more or less covering all the information that will be, as you understand, will be more or less integrated with one or two tables. In other words, majority of my information, even for products that are really complex, might have no more than 5 tables that are super, super, super important. And I need to understand that, okay? Maybe I should have started with the actual item creation permission, because that's more complex than the actual purchase order one. So, but that's a good insight into the first part. But guess what? This user, they don't have actions so when it comes to post. Okay, so what I should do, if I actually grant permission to the user, I'm going to explain that, because I need to give permission, and I'm going to link this permission that I have created to a specific user. Okay, so, but I'm not going to go further into this explanation. This was about the recording tool. Okay, and the first insights into when we are learning security, what would be important. Okay, we have different dozens of logs when it comes to security, where you're going to be learning. The most complex things is learn about the complexity of the flow of the information. But to begin, work with what your users can read and what your users can modify or insert. Coming back then to my permissions, I'm going to stop here, because I have dozens of different type of standard permission sets. Okay, read them, take a look at them. We consultants are going to be creating this for you. And here we have for all the modules, for instance, somebody actually in the standard, we have the purchase document. So this is coming from a standard. I don't have to create it. And this is coming already from the system. How do we know? Well, start searching for the permission by the name and try to review if the permission is already created. And guess what? We have a permission for editing and we have a permission for posting. Okay, very simple. So start learning, review your permission sets. Like I said, is a large topic. I'm not gonna lie you, but here we need to link some ideas to start actually learning. We can as well, once any of your, let's say that you want to try something, you would performing this type of actions in a very important sandbox or test environment. But we can just import and export your permission sets, okay? So the idea is that if I click on export, well, this is going to export an XML file, and our security roles are actually an XML file. And then you can as well import in another environment. Okay, this is the basics for permissions of permission sets. To begin, before actually doing anything else, well, work with that recording tool to actually understand this, and then later with your consultant, actually you're going to be working your security process in a more efficient way. Now, once I have my permission tool, how do we assign the permission set to a user? Do I have to do it user by user, or can I create some specific groups for different people who are going to be handling the same type of responsibilities? Okay, so let's now review this. We are going to handle these permission sets where we are going to be creating user groups. That's very important. Now, it's not, we are going to leave for a second the permission set idea. Okay, so the permission set is a set of different accesses to different types of objects, like my purchase order I gave access to read and to modify the header and the lines, okay? Now, if I want to do something else more related with my permissions, but now linked to the users, for that I will need to create a user group. I'm going to click on user groups, and here as well we create user groups from for you with consultants. Here we have some examples: the administrator, the accountant, the backup and restore type of permission. What else? Well, finance and purchase orders, right? So the idea is that this is the most general level of security, because one group could contain many permission sets. Like in this example, we have finance and purchase data. So this specific permission set maybe is going to be able to see the same purchase order that we created, but not only that purchase order. He is going to be able to see all the information in the finance module. So, well, this permission is going to be integrated into things. Okay, so with that idea, think about your general user groups: accountant, purchasers, salespeople, warehouse, stores for those of you who have retail, intelligent cloud, or different levels of administration for those of you who are working in the cloud already. Like I explained before, we have a lot of administration tools now, but to make this not that complex, we are going to stay on the table idea, on the purchase order idea, and that sort of process, all right? Create your users according what you would need in your company. Let me see what I have here. What will be necessary to create now? Rapid start, sales, security, purchase manager. I don't see a purchase manager here. Okay, I can see that somebody can create purchase orders like we saw before. That's not a problem, but I need like something else for approvals. Somebody can approve my purchase order. Let's make that example. And a purchaser. Okay. So this is approvals and permissions to, I don't know, discounts. And well, the purchaser just creates purchase orders, reports, but he is not going to be able to approve, all right? How do we manage this then? Okay, I'm going to start with the manager. What I'm going to do is now insert the permissions for this group. I might have 2 or 3 people who will be actually working here, and then I'm going to add the permissions to this specific group of people. Okay, so I have, by the way, different roles. I forgot one very important concept. Let me just add the purchasing here. Okay. We have let me just come back one step before continuing with the assignation of the permissions, because we have different screens in Business Central. Here, this is the screen for the accountant. Okay, we have different roles, either in Navision and in Business Central as well, out of the box, all of them, more than 50. Here we have accountant administration. Let's take a look at this. Here I have an accountant. I'm going to select this. And here I can see that your user, as well in Business Central, is going to be able to select their actual language, and you can select their actual screen like I'm doing so. And by selecting that accountant role center, well, we are going to be able to actually manage this information that is being presented here. So I can see some beautiful charts, some beautiful colors explaining different information and different type of information, okay? Okay, so the important thing is these menus and this graph, these charts are all related to the accountant. What if I just change? Let's take a look at another one. Role center, the same once again, is for Navision. What I'm going to do is just open the another one that could be interesting. Business manager. Business manager is normally a person that is in charge for a specific division or business unit in the companies, and he will be handling some specifics only for his division, maybe not the entire company, or maybe the stores in LS Retail. But if you have also wholesaling activities, well, that will be another type of business activity. And what we would be seeing here is that, well, for the division, actually, this manager is underdeveloping. Look at the overdue purchase invoice amount. He has big debt in his division. Very bad for the webinar, but sorry, okay. I haven't posted oftenly in all my demo environments all the information required. This is the reason he doesn't have revenue in his division. But the idea is that this person is going to be able to see this information, okay? And it is quite different that maybe from the warehouse clerk or another, the LS Retail, where they are going to be able to see their sales information for the store only, or the POSs, etc., right? So how do we assign then this beautiful screen to the user? Let's go back again to the user group. So two concepts we have learned today: the recording tool, provide your permissions, and this specific screen. And I'm gonna go back to the purchase manager permission group or user grouper that I'm setting up now. Okay, so the default profile, when you create any user group, just add it like by clicking on new, as well in Business Central, in Navision, give it a name that you need, and select from the different role centers the actual that you would like to have for these people. Okay, so select from the ones that you see here, take a look, review some navigations, right? For different, do some navigation for the different roles, and we consultant can adjust the different buttons, the different charts, or if you want to insert some other features, well, let's have a chat, let's have a talk and review that for you. And we normally don't do it in the actual go live in the first day, right? This requires some time for you to learn. That's why I'm giving you these insights. Review the actual roles, review the permissions, review all this information, navigate, learn a little bit, and then go with your consultant so we can help you with what will be fitting your actual necessities of your users. Okay, but just the idea is that you need to select a default profile, and we have we need to assign as well the permissions. Okay. For me, it's very easy to, now that I have created some permission sets, at least for a purchase order, and I'm going to create, the purchaser is going to be able to see, let me see. Well, let's start it to the same screen as the manager as an example. Okay, the user group permission sets for the purchaser. I'm having this purchaser line selected, and I'm going to add the new permission that I created, the demo set. So they can only read sales invoices. Very sad, very, very bad permission. He doesn't have actual access to almost anything. But well, that's the point. That's some ideas, all right? But as well, he's going to be able to, why not to add a standard? So we can add the ones that we created, and we could add standard permissions, and they won't have, unless Business Central tells you, they won't have a how do we call it? They won't be against each other, because in one permission set you can give access, but in the other one you don't. Okay, Business Central is going to apply for you some priority. Okay, but let's try to add, like I was saying, the purchasing. Where is it? Purchase edition and purchase post. Okay. The purchaser is going to be able to edit only, just as an example, okay? Here is the permission, and the same will be going for the manager, plus the posting type of permission that is actually in the menu. I'm just going to show it to you. Here it was purchasing post. If you can see that line, he can post documents, this permission. If I select this permission and I assign it to the user, well, he's going to be able to do exactly the same as the manager. But For now, I'm just gonna leave it like that. Okay, so we have a demo who can read and sales invoices, but he can create purchase documents. To avoid confusion, we have a purchase document that we call purchase orders. That's why we need to sometimes have some conversations with our users to actually understand the process, because we have two documents, a purchase order and a purchase invoice. Okay, this example is very easy I believe that all of you understand that part, but what happened when we go with finance, where everything goes more like technical for the accounting people? They might be explaining some other stuff, right? So we have two documents, purchase orders and purchase invoices. He can read invoices, but he can create purchase documents. So that's why we have two different roles, and they are then working on the same level of the activity that these people is going to be doing. Very good. I like it. I like the permission set. I would need to test it as well. The idea of testing is that you can once again use your recording tool to understand whenever some is failing and your user is telling you, hey, I like it, but I need some access to another, in another part of the system, I would need access. Well, create another permission set, come to the same user group and add it like I'm doing now. So this is the most general level. So we have the first level is create your permission set. The second one, create your user groups. And with this, well, we can just check the user group members. Here is where we are going to be linking the actual purchaser permission set to the people that is going to be actually performing this type of activities, okay? So we can then do two things here. User group members, click on that, and we can then assign all the people that will be working. I have Mr. Hector Negron, who will be the purchaser for today. Assign it and continue adding more people, and voila, everything will be done. And from here, you can as well select by company the actual permissions, because by company, the permission sets and groups will be independent. In other words, maybe in production environment, your people will be restricted to do a lot of things, but in the test environment, maybe you could add some other permissions. So that's not a problem, because they will be testing customizations, they will be doing some other type of reviews to maybe create their actions and review the results in a report. So maybe in the test environment, the security level will be quite more loose, right? But in the production environment, sometimes it's very important to save and have the responsibilities just very linked to the user, so they can read information that is not applicable to them. Okay, so that's why this is done by company in the same window. Okay, so Mr. Hector Negron for the hospital company name can see and actually can use this information. But let's think of another person just to provide the admin. Okay, the admin as well is going to be included as a purchaser. But what is going to be happening here? Okay, the administrator as well has access to everything. Well, what has got more priority? The administration level or this little, very little permission access that I'm actually giving to this person, okay? The idea for this is that at the end, the most important or the priority level is that the administrator, of course, is going to actually check and is going to be able to check that information. I'm going to explain you now. Let me just go back and open once again the users. Okay, coming back to the level of the one single user, open the users. I'm going to check the administrator. Okay, so he has actually business premium or super. We have an access in NAV that is called super. You add it, so any user will be having access to everything. Very common when we implement for the first time. And then later we'll be adding some specific, okay? You will need to delete the actual super role because super has priority. Don't forget that, okay? But let me explain another use of this, permissions. Now there's no security filter for now. Where is that option to review my, 1 second, my actual access. Okay, and excuse me for the interruption, I'm attending actually some support, but okay, whenever you actually are going to be working with that level, please come here, review user by user that they do not have the super access, please. Otherwise, you might be anyway by not validating the actual process that you have with your permissions. Okay, in Business Central we call it the business premium. But let's review that. Once I access the administrator into the user group, on the user level, the new permissions appeared in this level, okay? In the user permission sets assigned to the user, okay? And here we can see, once again, system, and tenant, or the user created. Remember that we have some permissions that are actually standard coming from the system, and some other are just tenant, meaning that you created them, okay? Let me just go back and review once again the user group members. And I'm just going to delete the administrator from this little permission set. Okay, so once we create our users and we created our, we added our users to this specific group, we have other type of ways of create and set up this. Please click on the new permission set that we created, and we have another quite easy window where we can actually review and assign people. So we have the user by user group type of setup. I'm going to click on this option as well, existing NAV, where you could add to different permissions just by clicking on this check mark, the different users. So we have administrator, Mr. Hector Negron, and Mrs. Megan Bowen. And here we just can click on these checkboxes to give different permissions, okay? But that's more used when you actually understand more or less what you are actually doing, okay? I'm just telling you that this actually exists. So here you can see more or less that, for instance, the administrator, if I click on this, the administrator has access to all the actual permission sets that are available, okay, in the company. So just by clicking on under this 365 administrator column, if you click on this, well, this is going to give access to the entire system, okay, to avoid more complexity, okay? And the same exists for other type of accesses that are not exactly related to the actual document purchase order, but who's going to be able to make backup, okay? Who's going to be able to review the licenses for your ISB, let's say, LS Retail as well, okay? Who's going to be accessed now coming to Business Central? Who's going to be having the business premium level for that type of license, okay? This is only for Business Central. When we have a license that is called premium, is that you have all the capabilities in Business Central, including manufacturing, okay? So you want that for any of your users, just click on that and your licenses will be then applied, okay? So we have more or less this idea of understanding that we have different necessities. Let's just add it. like the accountant, like, let's say, who do you want to have full access to specific things, okay? So we have the user by user group type of a check boxes that are more to the, for the administrators, okay? This window exists, and this is not that specific, okay? But it still exists, and well, as well, also we have the same criteria, but with another type of view. Now, if you actually understand very, very well, what you're doing here is that we are going to be giving access, create your own permission set like we did before. We're going to be having the purchase. Here is, okay. Read and sales invoices, okay? Now that you have located the specific permission, okay, we can actually, we can create you can link your permission set to the different groups that you have just by actually just clicking on the specific checkboxes. So as well, you might have different, let's say I want to make your accountants, all your accountants, I need to give them the permission to create the purchase orders, okay? Or to do something, even review warehousing, I don't know, something that is not very common, okay? Just, or edit vendors, or well, that's more or less the idea. Okay, here we have some very standard permissions like vendor edit, vendor review them, open the permission set by user group, and here you could add, for instance, for the accountants, I would strongly recommend create a permission set for accountants, for purchasers, for salespeople, and that's why, and that's how you will be then be able to, for instance, create your permission level, your permission set with your permission group, and then at last being able to do the following. I want my accountants to easily edit and then view vendors, okay? So at the end, the idea of the security process is that we are going to be able to create permission sets in this way for different responsibilities and user groups. So you can, at the end, let's say with this accountant's idea, you create a permission group for accountants, and then with all your activities that you do in your company on the permission set level, we are going to be able at the end to cross the actual information in an easy way, okay? That's why with some experience from the consultants about these specific setups to make them easier, not too complicated, okay? Let's try to at least give information for different documents, for purchases, for sales, for financial journals, to somebody create a document and only the managers are going to be able to post or something like that to begin your security. And when you become more experienced with these type of features, as well, use your recording tool. When you get more experience with these type of things, well, why don't we just actually work on a field a security level, okay? So we are at this point just talking about the general type of actions that we would normally do to actually implement in a company, maybe not in the first phase, but maybe after the actual process is quite stable, maybe 1 or 2 months after your implementation. It's a great idea to implement your security once you understand Business Central, once you understand all the pages, the information that is flowing from, let me think, something quite complex. Okay, from the POS to the actual ERP, okay? That's a lot, that's a huge load of information flowing to different modules in the actual ERP, finance, inventory, etc. Okay, so once you understand, well, that side, well, you're going to need an administrator who's going to be able to run the jobs, who is going to be able to review that everything was fine, to review that the financial journal was fine. So that type of role will be having access to a lot of different types of criteria, material, data, and forms, okay? That will be quite complex. That's why we strongly recommend to start understanding the idea behind the security so you can actually review it in NAV or Business Central, and actually start working with the consultant to then later apply your ideas. I don't know if so far you have any doubt or you have had some issues that we can actually review. Remember that this is still quite basic. We are not going into anything complicated yet. We are still on a document level security. And then later, well, there's more security, of course, until we reach the field level. We reach the access to specific modules, different buttons, different screens, okay? And to just actually come to the last part of this webinar, I'm going to open the actual purchase order and to show you some specifics about, well, this is as well for security. The administrator is going to be able to handle that. The following customization in NAV is going to be following the following aspect. Okay, so we're going to have different menus, fields, and we're going to have all these different lines, buttons, the right side. This is customizable as well. This is part of the regular customization that you might have in your implementation, either for Business Central or whatever you need. For Navision, for retail, and everything that is tightly integrated in Business Central or NAV will be working with these following criteria. I'm gonna have the personalization capabilities that I will be having here in the actual menu, where in this process, I'm going to be able to change, like I'm doing now, the menus. You can change them. You can change the actual fields that we present here in the header section, and you can change the actual localizations of these columns that are here. Also, we have a section that you can change and move in the actual menus that you see on the right side. This is what we call the fact boxes, okay? And if your user requires something that could be moved or changed among menus, you can do so. Here in Business Central, we just need to actually do the following: move, remove, or well, you just need to drag it, and this is going to be then just changed, okay? So we just move it, and okay. We're just going to be moving any of the fields that I need and place it in any place. And then I also going to be able to move any of the fields that I have, for instance, here, and add a new field. Like, I don't know, the unit to measure. Why is not the unit? Here is a unit measure. And let me think of the variant code. Okay, very used in retail. So I have my auto. Let me see if this. Oops, this is actually frozen. Excuse me 1 second. Let me update my Assure. Yeah, correct. Sorry for that. Okay, let's order source type. The source type. I have just a drop of the connection. 1 second. Okay, any field is good for me to explain this part. I just need the order date. Let's place it there. Okay, so we are going to be then working on the actual level. Let me see. What is trying? I'm having sorry for the bad connection. I'm having an issue with the actual Assure connection. Or what's going on? It's taking a while just to update. Okay, at last. Here it just inserted the order date. That's fine. And then as well, this type of windows we can show, move, and well, since they are grayed out, I'm going to show now this. And this is white again, meaning that the user can see this information. In Business Central, this can be done by your user, okay? In addition, this is most of the time done only by your consultant or by your key user, all right? That will be quite different as well, because in NAV we have so the menus are slightly different, but the idea is the same concept. You can add fields here in this section, move them. Let me just, why not, hide this field as well. Okay, you can hide, you can move, you can, let's make this approval process I want to show. Very well, that's fine. Or if you don't like anything that you have done, you just can clear your personalization and just click on all, or maybe only fields, columns, or parts. I'm gonna click on all just for the webinar, and I'm gonna click on yes. And any customization I did will be then return to the start point. Okay, so that is the end of this basic part of the security. The security levels to learn about the options that you have, from licensing to customization to create your user groups, to understanding the recording tool, to know what features, at least just to learn. In the very beginning, you're going to need your groups, you're going to need your permission sets to create it. You can have some testing with these different tools. Let me just finalize the actual setup. That's fine. And everything's coming back to normal. Very well. Okay, so just to finalize that's it. Just to begin the security processes. And here behind the scene, of course, we have a lot. We have a lot, from licensing to create your user groups for your company, and to customize your screens and the forms for the documents that you have. I don't know if you have any other further doubt about these basics for security. If not, I just want to thank all of you your time. We are finishing now with the security webinar, a basic security webinar. And see you next week. Let me show you what we're going to be presenting. I came back to the basics, actually. So next week, we are going to have process customer and vendor payments, okay? So this was a request from one of my customers who wants to actually work with and review what is the total automation, to review the payments, to maybe make collections for the customers, to reduce the actual aging in a useful way within NAV and Business Central. Thank you very much for your time. This is everything for today. That is all. And don't forget to write us when you need at optimus.guru. Review our training sessions where we have a calendar with all these hot topics. With Business Central is it's a really hot topic for now. I'm doing demos on at least twice or thrice per week. So we are having a lot of information moving for that. I'll review our webinars and review whenever you need me to actually explain something specific. You can write me directly. My email is noe.wellman where I'm going to be attending your actual questions. noe.wellman@optimus.guru.